Okay, today we're going to show you how to make 2-ply cord from various materials that you might or might not have easily available. This is my favourite. This is rushes, harvested from the River Isla in Somerset in about June time normally, and these have been dried right out, and I've just watered them with a watering can about 20 minutes ago just to make them supple. But if you haven't got access to rush, we've also got some willow bark here, which we stripped earlier, and then I've cut some leaves from irises, flag irises. Here, it being April, the daffodils have just gone down, but their leaves are still standing, so I've just cut a few of those. And then we've got some long grass, and last of all, some shredded up bread bags. And so what I've done is cut that into strips, so you really need sort of long strips of material, but plastic you can use as well, so it's a good way of recycling your plastic. And we're going to make cordage that you can use for tying up plants or anything else you might need cordage for. Okay, we're going to make some 2-ply cord, and I'm going to use rushes. You need something to pull against. Could be a door handle, could be a table leg. I've got a staple banged into a post here. And you need a loop of twine. I've got some stretchy stuff here. It helps with putting the tension on. But just tie a loop around there, and we're going to use this bit here to pass through a couple of bits of material to weave with, in this case rush. So I'm putting the thick end of one rush through and the thin end's poking out the other way, and now I've got a second rush here, and I'm going to put the thick end through the other way, so that I've got one thick end and one thin end on each side of my piece of tie. And the lengths, the ends are uneven, so that's quite a short end there. This is a nice long bit there here. I'm going to pull to put some tension on, and now I'm twisting the right hand bunch together. So as I twist, I pinch it between my finger and thumb and my left hand to hold the twist on, and I'm twisting up about 4 centimeters, inch and a quarter, something like that. And then I move that towards the center so that my twisted bit, the stretchy tie, is halfway between the two ends of the twisted bits. So I'm now twisting the right hand side again a little further, and then I'm going to pass it underneath, and I'm passing the left hand side over to the right hand side but on top, and I'm going to twist up that side anti-clockwise, and then I'm going to swap them under again. So twist up the right hand side anti-clockwise, pass it underneath, twist the new right hand side anti-clockwise, pass it underneath, all the time pulling tension, keeping tension on your loop of twine. Occasionally you just need to rub it like that just to smooth out those twists. This first twist is known as the S twist, and then when I pass it underneath, this bit here is the Z twist, and they bite together. Now I've got into the habit of twisting anti-clockwise and passing underneath, but other people that do this, they like to twist clockwise, in which case they'd have to pass over the top. So anti-clockwise underneath, twist, pass under. Now if you're going to make a very long rope or a longer bit of rope, you need to keep joining in. Similar if your two sides get out of balance, if one's a little bit thinner than the other, that might be the time to join in. And joining in is very, very simple. I'm going to pick up another piece of rush, and I'm going to lay the thin end into my right hand stack so it's poking out a little way, and twist that in, still twisting anti-clockwise, pass that underneath. Now when we've finished our cord, our rope if you like, then this little end will be cut off. So because I've added to one side, I really ought to add to the other side before too long. So we're now in a position to add. This side's got 3 elements in it, this side only 2. So I've just scooped up another bit of rush, popped that in, twist it up, carry on. And again, that short end will be trimmed off when we have finished our twine. So one of the things I should have got really before I started was a clothes peg, because anytime you want to stop, you could just put the clothes peg on here and that will hold everything where you want it. So I'm going to pause and go and get me a clothes peg. Okay, we've moved things along a bit. I've now got about 1/2 metre of twisted up 2-ply rush cord, and you can see how I use the peg just to pause if I want to. Sometimes your hands can get a little bit tired. So now I'm going to do a very simple knot in the end just to finish off, and I'll probably show you the knot after I've done it. So here's my end with the peg on. If I take the peg off of there and then just gather all the ends together, and I'm going to bring them around in a loop and pass all the ends through the loop. Make sure they're all pulled through okay, and then I'll slowly tighten that loop, and I want the knot to be right at the end of where I've twisted, so something like that, and we'll work that knot up as tight as we can. That's grand. Okay, so we've finished the short length of rope that we were making with rush. So I now just undo my twine that I started off with and take that off of the staple, and then I can just pull that out and use it again. Next we're going to trim off all of these ends, and I just need a pair of scissors for those, so I'm just going to cut them fairly short where they're emerging from the rope. And then at the very ends I can cut all those unwanted bits off just underneath the knot. And there we have a short piece of 2-ply cord. That's done in rush. As I said, not all of you will have access to rush, so I'm going to do some more demonstrations, just perhaps the start, and then show you the completed thing using grass, long strands of grass I've just cut, daffodil leaves, some iris leaves, and of course some shredded plastic bags, and I may actually mix them up within one rope so you can see how the different properties work. Okay, for this demonstration I'm using willow bark, and this is stripped from a stem of willow this morning, and I've put through 4 elements this time through my knotted piece of string, and I've put the lengths so they're pretty even, so I'm not going to add in during the course of this one. So again, I begin by putting some tension on my loop of string, and then I'm twisting up my bark, twisting it anti-clockwise, move that along till it's in the middle. Obviously it's a little bit tougher than the rush, so I'm having to twist harder, and then pass underneath. Now the new right hand side gets twisted anti-clockwise, pull it tight and pass it underneath. You can see that I'm keeping nearly a right angle between my 2 elements as I twist them up, pass underneath. twisty twisty, pass underneath. I'm not going to join in into this bit, so I'll go all the way to the end and I'll show you the finished item at the end. Got my peg to hand in case my hands get tired, and I can stop anytime I like by popping the peg on there. Okay, for this one we're going to use threaded up plastic bags. I've got some old bread bags. I've put through 3 elements through my loop, got my peg to hand here. I don't use plastic very often. I'm much more used to using plant materials. So if I remember rightly, this stretches a little bit more, and of course it's going to produce a much finer cord. And because they're quite short lengths, we're going to have to join in more often. So I've done my twist. I've got the twist centralized on my tie. I'm pulling on my tie to put tension on. Twist up the right hand side, pass underneath. Twist and pass underneath. This one's a little bit more reluctant to go into the Z twist, but I think we're getting it now. That's it. So because they're such short lengths, I'm going to have to join in pretty much immediately. And so if I pick another bit off the floor and again just lay it into the side there and just start twisting it up into my right hand stack, still twisting anti-clockwise, passing underneath, twist anti-clockwise, pass underneath. Now this side is definitely feeling thicker than the other side because I've joined in. So now we're into the position where we're twisting up this side. I need to join to this side. Try not to catch that original piece up in our new twist. That's it. So it's definitely a little bit more fiddlier, but it's going to be strong, and of course very durable outside, being plastic. You could do this with carrier bags, any form of plastic really, and you'll make some durable cordage tying up your plants or anything else that you need cordage for. So I'm going to pause it there, and I'll carry on and make a longer length of that, and then I'm going to show you all the lengths I've made when I've finished them all. So this time we're going to use some Daffodil Leaves. I must admit it's not something I've ever tried before, so I've put 2 through, and same old process. Twist up the right hand side, shift it so that twists in the middle, twist it up a bit more. Oh yeah, don't think this is going to be good. They're a bit too juicy, a bit too fresh cut. They've broken, so I think perhaps they would need to be dried and then dampened down. Okay, we're going to give it a go with iris leaves then. And these are again fresh cut. I've got some dried ones from last year, but what I would recommend with these is splitting them down. I think they're too wide, so you can see that sort of mid-rib in there. Let's see if we can just split it down into strips, and we'll hang a couple of strips through. Again, this is just fresh cut, so maybe a bit too juicy. Maybe it should be dried out, but we'll find out. Okay, so I've got a few bits there that'll give me an idea if it's going to work or not. A couple of bits through and a couple of bits through the other way. By having uneven lengths, you can stagger when you join in. So if you've got you know, sort of between the 2 halves, they roughly be about the same, but the ends will be finishing at different points. so that you can join in. So let's twist up. Feels a bit soggy, feels a bit vulnerable, but we'll give it a go. Okay. Oh well, I think it might be better than the daffodils. Yeah, it's going to work okay. So I'll crack on with that and try and make a reasonable length, and I'll show you it when I've finished it. Okay, for this one we're going to use grass, and I cut this grass this morning. It's the longest stuff I could find with third week in April, so grass hasn't grown massive yet. But this is quite a tough stemmed one, and I've put about 6 elements through one way, 6 the other. Same principles apply though. Twisting it up, shift it into the centre, put some tension on it, and off we go. I'm particularly keen on trying the grass because I can remember back well 50 years now, when I was about 8, my parents used to get the National Geographic magazine, and there was a feature in there about some South American Indians who every 3 years or so they rebuilt a rope bridge across a canyon on their territory where they were hunting, and the whole community used to get together on the hillside, and they had very short grass, maybe only about 4 to 6 inches long, and they would ply it up into 2-ply, adding in all the time to make long ropes, and then they would ply the 2-ply into 4-ply and so on, and they would recreate the bridge every 3 years because, being grass of course, it decayed. So the first bridge they must have built must have been quite tricky, because somebody would have had to have climbed down the ravine and taken the rope across to the other side. So by renewing it every 3 years, of course, they could use the existing old bridge to take the new rope across. So I'll carry on with this. I'm just about to add in, and I'll show you it all when I've done. Okay, the last rope we're going to try is one using mixed elements, and so I've got a bit of plastic, a bit of grass, some rush, and a bit of iris leaf in there, and I'm going to add in random bits. So same old process, twisting it up anti-clockwise, hook it into the middle, twist it a bit more, and then I don't know how this is going to go, never tried this one before, so we'll soon see, and I'll see how much I can make, and then I'll show you the end result. Okay, we've finished making all our ropes and trimmed them up with a pair of scissors. This is the shortest piece, this is the iris leaves. It was about twice as long until I came to do the knot, and then it broke when I was doing the knot. So I think that's a little bit juicy, that stuff. Like the daffodil leaves, perhaps I should have left it to dry out a little bit before trying it. And if it was really dry, then you just water it with a watering can about 20 minutes before you need it, like I did the rush. Next one moved on to is the bark. It's quite a chunky, solid piece of rope, really, so 2-ply rope there. And then the next longest piece we made was the mixed media. Now that went really well. The plastic, instead of twisting up very tight and making very fine, wrapped itself around the other materials, so it gave a more bulk to it, using the other materials, but the plastic sort of kept, because they're all short lengths that I was using, and that kept a sort of continuous strength through it. So I'm quite pleased with the result of that one. This is the pure plastic one, made from shredded up bread baskets, quite fine, nice and brightly coloured, and yeah, that's going to be tough. That's going to last, well, probably longer than I will. So that's a nice piece there. My favourite, of course, the rush. Not my best bit of rush work. I think it was some old rushes that I'd wetted and dried out a few times, so it was a little bit brittle, but quite pleased with that. And then the longest piece, of course, was the grass, and that's quite a coarse grass I was using. That's very chunky and strong, so probably not up to the standard of the South American rope bridge makers. I don't think I'll get a job with them, but sufficiently useful, I think. One of the things that I couldn't show you, because I don't have any planted here, but I have used it before, is New Zealand Flax. That is brilliant for making twine from. Again, you need to split down the leaves like we did for the iris, and it's very tough, and you can use that fresh, and that makes a very nice twine for use in the garden. That'll last a number of years. So we've made relatively short pieces, but if you went on and made a long piece, particularly in this sort of thickness, then you can then start to think about knitting it or crocheting it. We could also think about plying it up into 4-ply to make chunkier material, and then we can get into ply splitting and that sort of thing. But that's perhaps another video that we'll do on advanced cord making. So thank you. I'm Richard Kerwood. Nice to have met you.